Today on Inspirational People, Inspirational Stories, my guest is Jessica Cox, who is the world's first licensed armless pilot. She flies planes, drives cars, scuba dives, rides bikes, and even holds a black belt in Taekwondo, all where she was born without arms. She is also the best-selling author of the book Disarm Your Limits and has just released a new audiobook, literally just now. Jessica's story, though, isn't just about extraordinary achievements. It's also about resilience, self-belief, and turning adversity into purpose. She's a global speaker, a disability rights advocate, and a humanitarian who has helped and inspired millions of people around the world through her story. She really is a true inspiration and a pleasure to have on the show. Jessica, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be on.
Well, we met obviously we did a radio show when I was on Dublin City FM a few years ago, and it was an absolute pleasure. And your story is just incredible, and it's inspiring. In fact, I was saying to you before the show, I literally was listening to a few podcasts and a few TED Talks earlier today, and I was in tears. I literally was,
Oh.
because it's so inspiring. Because I think both of us are quite spiritual, and both of us kind of have this, viewpoint of life. And when people initially look at you, they may have pity, but actually, I think in some ways, God created you in this form to be able to inspire people, which you have so much so around the world. But I'm sure as a kid, you may not have thought that. What was it like growing up as a kid without arms?
Well, growing up different is tough for any child. Whatever it is that sets you apart from someone is also a reason to be picked on or to be targeted. So naturally, my not having arms was an attention getter that I didn't want to be associated with. I had no choice, and it was what I was given, and that was my normal. But for others who were stunned by it, they acted in various ways. Sometimes people, like you said, they wanted to have pity for me, which I didn't want any of that. Sometimes it was a reason to pick on me, and other times it was a reason to be shocked by seeing the things that I could do. So I got the whole gamut of reactions from being born without arms and that difference and what that meant to me in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've done so much. I literally, I can't. I've never scuba dived. You surf as well. I didn't mention that. I've tried surfing with terrible results. And I know you surf. I know you cycle. I know you drive cars. But tell us about the airplanes. I mean, how on the earth? Well, it wasn't on the earth because it was in the air. But how on the earth did you get into, becoming a pilot? Tell us about the process and what happened.
Well, actually, I had a fear of losing contact with the earth since you bring it up. It was terrifying for me not to be tethered to the ground in some capacity because I did a lot of crazy things. I mean, meaning I would do everything that crossed my path from climbing up ladders without arms and doing everything. I wasn't afraid of heights or anything like that, but it was my fear to lose contact with the ground. And I knew that that was associated to something, some reason. Was it the fear of the unknown? Was it the fear of falling and hurting myself like I did many times as a child because I didn't have the arms to catch myself? What was the reason? And so I had to conquer the fear. And that's what really drove me to becoming a pilot. The fact that I did it without arms, that didn't really faze me because that was my normal. I was going to figure it out however I was going to go about it because that was my life, figuring out a different way to go about it. And it was actually the emotional fear that was more of a difficulty than the physical realities of flying a plane without arms and having to do so with my toes and my feet on the controls.
Wow, it's amazing. I remember I was listening to another podcast and it was saying that, you got in and then you suddenly thought, oh, how am I going to, put the harness on as such? Because, obviously, you've practiced a lot of the stuff, whether it's tying your shoes with your feet or whatever, and that takes time and grit and resilience. But suddenly you might find yourself there going, okay, this is new. How do I do this? So, what was that like?
Well, just like anything that's new in anyone's life, you go through a series of, well, how am I going to figure this out? And sometimes it's frustrating and sometimes it makes you angry and you're like, oh, I got to find a way. And I was pretty driven And I based it off of how it is that I learned how to tie my shoes. And I learned to tie my shoelaces from the outside because I didn't have my feet inside the shoe because I needed my toes free to tie the laces and make the bow. And the same way, I made that connection to buckling up the harness. I buckled from the outside, standing on the seat. And then once it was buckled together, I could then loosen the straps, slide my body into the harness. And once I was secure in the harness, I could then tighten to the level of security to make sure that I was tight and snug in that seatbelt. So that's why I say think outside the shoe, because that is connected to my childhood learning how to tie my own shoelaces by thinking outside of the shoe.
I love that. And then I believe, if I'm correct, it took you 3 years to get the license. And there was an inspirational young lady who had lost her arms or something like that. Was that right? And she inspired you to keep going and be persistent. And that led to then to the success. Is that right?
Yes, there's two stories there. One was the mentor who I met, a woman who lost her arms at the age of 3. I went through my life thinking that I was the only one without arms who used my feet for everyday tasks and feeling different at times, isolated and wondering, is there anyone else out there? And I came across a woman who lost her arms from an accident, unlike myself, because I was born without arms, but she lost her arms, and I met her and heard about her life and how she has these two beautiful sons. She was married, she had a home, she was doing all of this without arms, and it inspired me to believe that I could do anything I wanted to do. And that translated to if I wanted to fly a plane, then I can fly a plane. If I want to drive a car, I can do that. And so all these different things came together in order for me to pave the way and do something no one has ever done before, fly a plane with just my feet on the controls.
I love that. Do you ever get up there, or when you first get up there, and you're kind of like suddenly you realize there's no co-pilot, it's just you, and you think, "Holy mackerel, I'm up here now, and it's just me." Did you ever have that kind of slight sense of fear or anxiety?
Oh, all the time. Even now as I fly, and I've been flying over 17 years, I get up in the air and I'm like, am I really doing this? There's a certain level of disbelief. And especially before you get in the air, because once you're in the air, you're a competent pilot. You go through your training, you go through your procedures. It's a whole checklist of things, and that's what pilots do. They rely on checklist and repetition and doing what you're taught. So it's one thing to be in the air, but when I'm on the ground and thinking about I'm about ready to go up in the air, or if I've landed already and I climb out of the airplane, there's that sense of disbelief, like I really did that. It's so empowering. It's the ultimate form of accountability.
Wow. I've been in a few small planes, and I have to say, I was going into Jersey one time, and we had to almost approach the runway sideways and turn last minute. Have you ever had any kind of like scary moments where the wind has suddenly picked up or something like that, where you've just really had to use your wits about you?
Yeah, there have been a few scary moments, and as a pilot, you have to stay level-headed, and you just go through it like a almost like a machine. You don't let that jostle you, because if you do, then you start to make mistakes. But if you
Mm.
stay calm about it, you go through your procedure, you say, this is what's going to happen. There's a lot of unpredictability in the sky, and you manage it and you go through your training. One instance I remember having basically what's called a near miss is when someone has come very close to you, very uncomfortably close to you in a pattern, to the point that it's dangerous. And having that situation, I was pretty calm the whole time. I didn't even realize how close this particular pilot was until I got on the ground and I had a camera, and the camera caught the proximity of this plane. And I was like, wow, that was a close one. That was considered a near miss. And the fact that I was able to get through that, and maybe the reality of it didn't hit me while I was in the air was a good thing. But those moments happen. As pilots, you're prepared to handle any kind of situation. You go through your checklist, you're prepared, you're ahead of the airplane, like they always say. Being ahead of the plane makes you a safer pilot. You don't fall behind.
Brilliant. And I know, because obviously you've been flying, would you say it was 12 or 17 years? Sorry,
17.
17 years. So 17 years. And I know you've got a project now where you're actually building a plane as well, which will be easier to fly for you. Is that correct?
Yes. So the endurance level for me and what I've been flying, which is a plane designed in the 1930s, built in the 1940s. Its unique design allows me to fly it without modifications, but it doesn't allow me to fly it for long periods. So my endurance, having my feet up in a crunch position, if you can imagine being in a crunch for an hour and a half, safely I don't exceed 2 hours. For that reason, the exhaustion from being in that position for so long. And at times, I could get a cramp in my foot or my leg because of the awkward positioning because I'm trying to fly a plane built to be flown with hands.
Mm.
And now we are taking this to the new level, a state of the art plane that we are building that has all the controls modified on the floor of the airplane so that I can sit in a comfortable position. And not only that, but fly for longer periods. And because it's a four-seater plane, fly children with disabilities in the back so that they can have that transformative moment of saying, if she can do this, then I can do anything.
Wow, I love that. It's amazing, isn't it? It's a bit like the Roger Bannister story about doing the 4 minute mile. I think when somebody sees it, they believe it because they can see in their visualization of doing that. And I think that's what you've done for so many people because I know you do quite a lot of humanitarian work. And I think the last time we spoke, you told me you went over to a disaster site and was helping people who'd lost limbs and everything like that as well. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that was during the largest. It was I believe it was the strongest typhoon in history at the time, and it hit the Philippines. And as a result, there were many people that were injured. People who stepped on nails, and perhaps they were diabetic, and that caused them to have an amputated limb. People were with disabilities were injured because they couldn't go to safety. All sorts of different people that I met during that trip, and it really I was there as a source of hope to give them that encouragement that they could keep going on and moving forward despite the adversity that they face. And they also gave me that sense of inspiration that they got through their challenges that they faced and they were survivors and fighters. And that inspired me as well, equally.
I love that. And do you know, because one of the things that brought tears to my eyes when I was listening to your story and your talks beforehand was the fact that I do truly believe, as I said at the start, that we have gifts from God to learn in our lifetime in some way or form. And I know this is not in the Christian Bible, but I do believe in kind of reincarnation. And I wonder whether, you come down again and again and again to test yourself, to grow, to learn, to become a more evolved soul as such. And it's like you're playing the highest level of the PlayStation game as such. You're out there, with this difficulty, but you're literally flying it. And I don't just mean because of the airplane, but what I mean is like you are playing life to the full level. And what I love about you is that you grasp life. Oh, no, sorry, that's a bad thing to say, but you know what I mean? You're literally, you're taking life and you're playing it to the full, like scuba diving. And how on the earth did you get into scuba diving, for example? I mean, like I've tried it. It isn't easy, and there you are doing it with no arms. I mean, even swimming as a child. How did you get into swimming to be and then become the scuba diver as well? I mean, like all these different things that you're doing, you're just basically going, you know what? Nothing's going to stop me. I'm going to get out there, and you're doing it. It's amazing. Tell us, how did you get into the scuba dive? How did you get into the swimming? And just tell us a little bit about it.
Well, I want to say though, your use of the word grasp is still appropriate because I can grasp with my feet, and
True.
so that's no worries there. That was perfectly used. For me though, it started at a very young age. This isn't something that you wake up and you're able to go out and get a scuba diving certification without arms. This is something that was a building block to doing other things, and before it, I had to go through other building blocks to build the confidence, to build the ingenuity to figure it out. So it started as a child at 5 years old, jumping into the backyard swimming pool as a kid during the summer months and learning how to figure out how to stay afloat, kicking my legs strong enough so that I could stay afloat. And then it worked its way up to now scuba diving underwater in the ocean using a BC unit to go further underneath the water and be able to control it with just my feet. So one thing I do differently from other scuba divers is I scuba dive with only one fin on my foot, not on both feet, because if I had them on both feet, then I wouldn't have access to my toes to control my oxygen, my BC unit, to be able to clear my goggles, to be able to do all the things and communicate with other scuba divers like my scuba diving buddies. I have to be able to have one foot free to do that. So everyone who sees me thinks that I've lost my fin somewhere, but no, I intentionally only scuba dive with one fin on my left foot that keeps my right foot free to be able to do what I need to do. And then if I propel through the water, I actually put my legs together and like a dolphin, propel through the water with that single fin.
Wow, that's amazing. And the other thing you do, I know, which is where you met your husband, is Taekwondo. And you went to the Taekwondo club where he was actually, I believe he was the one of the trainers there. And obviously, then you became a black belt. I mean, what possessed you in terms of, because I was thinking about it, I was thinking, hold on a minute, I played hockey, as in field hockey in the past, and I've got the odd whack here and whack there, and I've been not been able to use my arm for a day or two or whatever. And with you, you've got two legs which you need to utilize for your daily habits and daily, chores. So, have you ever had a whack or anything like that? And you kind of thought, oh, I shouldn't be doing this kind of thing.
I've thought of it occasionally, how to be protective. Fortunately, I haven't at this point had an injury in Taekwondo. So I've been able to really protect the limbs and actually thank goodness for the martial art because my flexibility. I need to be able to stay agile and be able to move and keep my muscles strong because I'm using my legs for everyday things.
I was going to say, I think because I'm 50 now, and I think I know you're a good bit younger than me. I think you're 10 years younger than me. But at the same time, it gets to a stage where your limbs, might need a little bit of extra yoga. Do you keep yourself fit by doing yoga and stretches and everything like that every day, just to make sure that everything is good?
I don't do daily yoga. I actually just get my stretch out from my normal routines. I mean, having just a cup of coffee this morning, I have to reach my coffee cup up to my mouth. So using my leg to do so gives me the stretch I need to start the day. And all that continuous usage of my legs and feet is almost like a daily stretching routine.
That's brilliant. I love that. And is there, because I see you do everything. Like you've even got this, you're obviously a Star Wars fan because you've got a beautiful dog called Chewie, which is obviously as in, well, I'm assuming because of Chewbacca, because he looks like a big Chewbacca kind of thing, very cute thing. But you do everything in terms of even your shopping. You go along, I've seen the way you have a little kind of almost knapsack on top of the dog, and then you use your feet to open up freezers and put the stuff in the knapsack, and he kind of brings it back and everything like that. It's amazing. Is there anything that you find difficult to do still? Because you seem to be able to do everything.
There are, and I think about the things. There's one thing I will say is a difficult challenge, and that is to tie my hair in a ponytail. Now, you see my hair is down right now, and I've brushed my hair out. I blow dried my hair. I did everything I needed to do to my hair, but putting it back in a ponytail is still a challenge to this day.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. You need to be a contortionist
Yes.
to be able to do that as well. And in terms of now, you're speaking on stage all around the world. You've spoken in front of one stage. I think you had
Excuse
40
me.
40,000 people you spoke in front of. Tell us a little bit about, I know, but tell the audience a little bit about what kind of stuff you talk about and what you can bring to the party, not just about your story, but things that actually can kind of be implemented in terms of the mindset into business and life.
Well, I think people initially, when they see any form of adversity in front of them, whether it's business adversity, whether it's life adversity, there's an immediate moment of, can I do it?
Hmm.
And we, no matter who we are, have that question. And that's just the ongoing question: can I get through this? And for me, it's showing them that we just have to break it down and change the way we think about that. And that's adaptability, is figuring out a way around it, not giving up, persisting through it, not being afraid of it, because fear is something that is part of the human experience. We all have it no matter who we are. And we also have negative voices. I heard it once said that the average person receives over 100,000 negative imprints by the time they're age 18. So we all have baggage in our life. We've had instances, but we have to be able to break through that limiting belief, perhaps, of I can't, and to shift that into, well, I'm going to figure this out, or it hasn't been done yet, so we're going to find a way. And making that shift is something that everyone can do when they're faced with something that seems beyond, maybe beyond their definition initially of what is possible. But just like this plane we're building, initially it was called, while we're building it, the impossible airplane. And once it is finished, this has been 4.5 years of building, it will be finished in May of next year. And when it is finished, we are going to switch it over to the I'm possible airplane. So it's switching it into a different, reframing it, so to speak. And that is what we all need to be able to do more of in our own life, is to translate that adversity, that difficulty, into finding a way to come up with a solution.
I love that. And I can imagine because I've had other people who've been disabled in some way or form on my podcast or radio show. And I think they'd be truly inspired by seeing you there, taking them up on the airplane. And I think it can really add a value to a lot of children. In terms of that, I know you're looking for a bit of funding. What kind of funding are you looking for? Just so if there's somebody out there that might be listening to us, they go, you know what, I can help. Give us a little bit of insights of what you're looking for, what you need.
So we are on this huge launch right now for we're on the home stretch for this airplane. Like I mentioned, it's been 4.5 years, but we need to do the finishing touches to make this airplane a reality. And we have a page called theimpossibleairplane.com. But right now, until the end of the year, we have match donor who's going to match it $2 for every dollar donated. So we have a page called theimpossibleairplane.com/match. And we are doing our best. Yesterday was the anniversary of flight, 122 years of powered flight since Wilbur and Orville Wright took to the skies. And we celebrated that by revealing to the world the paint scheme of this impossible airplane, soon to be the I'm possible airplane. And the paint scheme has so much meaning behind it because if you go back to what we started, it is very much the message of can do. And it takes a script, basically a script, a Filipino script that is called Baybayin, a pre-colonization script that we have used the can do messaging to incorporate into this design. And the airplane has something that looks like a Mobius. It's inspired by a Mobius sign, and it shows a very complex design on the airplane. But its intent is to say that anything is possible, and if you dream it, you can achieve it. And taking to the skies is such a great metaphor for no limits. And that's what is so beautiful about this airplane, and what we are trying to do to change that stigma about disability, to show that disability does not mean inability, and that we are all capable of accomplishing great things.
I love that. I absolutely love it. And for anybody listening out there, just think about it. Think about the fact of what a child may have had to go through, and they might need that inspiration to be able to just see it for themselves and be there. I mean, we talk about gratitude a lot, and the greatest thing you can be grateful for is seeing the trees and the mountains and the air around you, or feeling it, or hearing it, or smelling it. And you can have all of those up there with a child in the cockpit next to Jessica flying in the clouds. So although some of you out there might think, oh, this is, Jessica's thing. No, it's not. It's actually helping potential children out there that don't have that drive, or haven't had that amazing drive and passion and purpose that Jessica has. So let's maybe try and help her help more people. And I always say, in terms of karma, if you give to others, it's one of the greatest gifts that you can give to yourself as well. So knowing that you've helped Jessica could potentially help so many other people out there as well. So let's hope, Jessica, we can get some more people for you as well.
Thank
And
you.
I know in 2015, you released your book, which is Disarm Your Limits. And, only this year, almost, well, exactly 10 years later, you've now just done an audiobook. And I have to do mine as well, but I'd love to know why did you suddenly decide to do the audiobook now? And also tell us a little bit more about the book, that maybe things you haven't mentioned so far as well.
So the book was something I really wanted to do. It took me 7 years of trying and figuring it out and finally getting it done in 2015. And then 10 years later, obviously, I've gone through a number of experiences. I've spoken to thousands of people over the, 28 countries around the world. And I've been able to see the messaging that speaks to them about their own adversity through each of these chapters, because each chapter in the book has some element, whether it's courage, persistence, desire, authenticity. It goes through all these elements to really connect with the reader, to encourage them to find that within their own lives. And so I've been able to hear the feedback from people over the past decade, and now I wanted to share it in an audiobook form because there are some people that actually prefer that method. A lot of busy people who may be driving somewhere, working out, hiking, and to be able to connect with them with this audiobook, especially for those who are blind and would like to listen to this story. It is or low vision. It seemed appropriate that we should do this, and I went into a studio here locally in my hometown here in Arizona, and it was such a fun experience to be able to articulate these messages and know that people are listening to them. And I did it with such joy. It was one of the most enjoyable things about the book was creating the audiobook.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, absolutely. You got a lovely voice as well. So I'm sure people will enjoy that. If you're on Audible, have a look, check the book out, download it, listen to it. And I'm sure you get a lot of insights, not just about your story, Jessica, but I'm sure there's a lot about life that people can utilize as well.
For sure, that's what it's all about. It's all about disarming your own limits.
Absolutely. And if Jessica can go out there and do all this amazing stuff, I'm sure some of us will take some inspiration and think, hold on a minute, if he can do it, I've got to do it as well. So, absolutely. And tell me, if you were going back now and you were speaking to your younger kind of 16-year-old self, what would you say to that young girl now that you know what you know?
I would probably start off with get over it because when you're 16 and you want to be like everyone else, being different is just nearly impossible. But I would probably reassure myself and say, your uniqueness is the very thing that sets you apart. But not only that, but will give you true joy if you embrace it and inspire all those around you and really take you to the next level. So I would really reassure myself, my younger self, that my very difference is a true gift. And that's the truth for anyone. We are all very different from each other, and we don't realize it, but we have to celebrate those very differences because that is what is our special gift.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I think people, you obviously were born this way, but there's people that have tragedies that happen to themselves and they've turned their mess into a message to give it meaning to help other people in some way or form. And you've done that in bucket loads, which is lovely. So fair play to you in terms of, I know at the end of your life, you can look at the powers of be and look with pride and joy in terms of what you do, and I hope it continues as well. Look, you're incredibly inspirational. People always say to me that I've got loads of energy, but there are times that when I wake up and I don't feel that I'm this energetic, inspirational guy. I'm sure you do as well. What kind of things do you do yourself, whether it be a morning routine or some kind of tricks or tips that you can give the audience to turn your mindset around? Because although I know you're inspirational, I'm sure, like me, you have days where you go, "Oh, I don't know if I can do this." What do you do? What's your kind of game plan to get you into that state?
Well, for me, it starts with gratitude because we all have bad days. And I can recall one recently that I woke up to having a bad day. And sometimes it's just finding about the littlest things that you're grateful for. Because if you come from a place of gratitude, it really reframes things, it shifts the energy, and it really helps you to get through perhaps a bad day or what could have been a bad day.
Absolutely. I love that. I always say, I quite often when I'm on stage, I say to people, how many people here have children? They all put their hand up. And I say, how many people here have given a present to a child and are not grateful? And they put their hand up and I say, well, look, if you're not grateful for everything in your life that you've had happen to you in some way or form, how do you think you're going to open up your mindset or subconscious mind to receive anything more? So I think the attitude of gratitude opens you up to receive more. And I think when we truly are grateful for everything, even the small things in life, it can bring us and project us up to another level. And I think you're a great example of that in so many different forms as well, which is lovely. And in terms of yourself, so you're also doing a lot of speaking. In terms of speaking, how can people get in touch with you so that they can get you on their stages to inspire them? And by the way, anybody who's listening, make sure you look at Jessica's TED talk. Have a look at a few other talks as well. She doesn't just sit there and talk at you. It's very it's almost like a show with interaction and everything like that as well. So make sure you get and have a look at the TED talk and have a look at the other talks that she does. But how can people get hold of you if they want to bring you in to their organization or their summit or conference to be able to speak?
For anyone who is interested in having me as a speaker, feel free to go to jessicacox.com and you can find out a little bit more information. You can obviously go to TEDx and watch my TEDx talks. I've done 2 of them. And feel free to reach out. My director of operations is happy to communicate with you. And I would be thrilled, as I've spoken now in 28 countries, and to be able to inspire you to believe that anything is possible, that you can adapt and find a way, or like I like to call it, think outside the shoe.
Oh, I love that. And one last question as well. If you were, let's say in the future, you're 95 years of age, and I give you a stage in front of 50,000 people, and we beam it out to the 8 billion people around the planet, what final legacy or message that you may not have already mentioned, because you mentioned some amazing ones already, but what other message would you like to leave with the world in terms of the inspiration that you've experienced and might help them?
Oh, wow. Love and joy is the secret to being happy and fulfilled, is having that love and the joy of living, the zest for wanting to do things. And I think that that message about joy and love is something I would definitely love to share.
Oh, I love that. I always say that love is an acronym for lots of vibrant energy. And if you optimize your energy, you optimize your life. So it's all about love. And I have to say, I've absolutely loved having you here. I've loved interviewing you. And I love your energy and your positivity and your inspiration. And I want to say from my heart to your heart in terms of gratitude, thank you for all you do. One last time before we go, can you just give the Impossible Plane website one more time for anybody out there who might have a bit of cash to splash?
Thank you. theimpossibleairplane.com/match.
Super. You've heard it there. Jessica, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. I wish you every success going forward.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you so much for having me on again. It's so great to be here.
My pleasure. My name is Doug Gordon, and you've been listening to Jessica Cox on Inspirational People, Inspirational Stories. I'll be back next week with another inspirational guest. In the meantime, if you need to get in touch, please contact me at doug@dougdgordon.com. From all of us here in the team of the show, I wish you a truly inspirational week and look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.